In 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey there! Sorry for the abrupt ending. I realized that I had the wrong thing uploaded, and before we got to the part where the wrong thing would play, I went ahead and cut it off. Anyway, so that's on me. I had a lot on my mind tonight. I'm trying to. We'll talk about that shortly, but let me bring on the hillbillies I've got operating with me here. Anyway, well, the first one was fresh from Scotland, and
if it's no Scottish, it's crap!
Hello. How you doing?
Hey, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us. How's everyone doing?
Doing fine. Let me bring on the next guy. We're going to go with this.
Abby someone. Abby someone. Abby who? Abby normal.
Hello.
This is not the show I'm supposed to be on.
Well, anyway, welcome to the show, Abby Normal. And, well, I guess we got to bring the last guy on, don't we?
I suppose so.
We have to,
I
really.
suppose. All right.
I guess.
Sir, nobody worries about upsetting a droid.
It's because a droid don't pull people's arms out of their sockets when they lose. Wookiees are known to do that.
Uh-oh. Where's Jason?
Jason!
Where is he?
Wrong video. Wrong video.
Where is Jason?
wrong one. Drago's here. Eat your cereal, kids.
That's the wrong one. All right. Anyway, tonight's going to be a little special.
I sank the Titanic.
Oh, well, that's it. The stream's over. We know who's done it now.
Spoiler alert! Anyway.
Jason of Star Command goes back in time, attends this Titanic, and then it gets sunk. There you go. That's it. Stream over.
Well, that's not exactly the theory I'm espousing tonight.
It was Nicolas Cage doing back in time, right?
All right, Nicolas Cage. There you go.
Nicolas Cage trades faces with John Travolta. What the hell?
Yes.
Yeah, it wasn't Jean-Claude Van Damme, okay? No. Anyway.
The grassy knoll.
Was it Arnold? It was Arnold, wasn't it?
Yeah, come on, do it.
It wasn't Arnold. It wasn't Arnold. All right.
Arnold fought Sho Kosugi on the Empire State Building. In Super Ninja 25.
Can we focus? Can we just focus for 2 seconds?
Focus.
All right. All right. Okay. Anyway.
Focus from
Okay, well, let me introduce tonight. Basically, I'm going to try to make a case. there's plenty of theories out there. There's plenty of conspiracy theories surrounding the wreck of this vessel here in the image picture. And one of them is the one that I'm the one I think is most plausible, and yet still they're calling it a conspiracy theory, and they're saying it's debunked. And it's weird. It's the only theory that I'm seeing out there that are actively has people debunking it now, which I find very curious. This thing happened in 1912, after all, and so why are we still debunking a theory of something that happened in 1912? Why? Because it's still affecting us today. Okay, if I'm right, so. Right now, I've got the poll up, and we've got here on cannabis. Cryptids and conspiracies. Cryptids and conspiracies.
We need some cannabis. Holy shit!
I got CRS. All right, I got CRS. All right. Anyway,
got CBD.
Here on Cryptids and conspiracies. Yeah. Anyway, but here on Cryptids and Conspiracies, we have four possibilities, right? It's either debunked, confirmed, in the middle, or undecided. Okay, and it's on the poll over there. So as you come in, it's in the chat because I'm sure that Wookiee's probably too lazy to have put it in his chat, but it's over in mine. So this is on the rabbit hole. Anyway, so if you want to come in and vote, all right. So I have to make my point tonight. These gentlemen are going to be more of a jury than they are going to be the panel. So to me, tonight you're going to get to be, to me, basically give you this conspiracy theory and see if these guys think it's either debunked, confirmed, in the middle, or they're undecided about it. So.
Everyone likes the Spanish Inquisition.
I know. Thumb screws are fun. Anyway, so we're going to start out. All right, so I'm going to play this first clip. This first clip kind of like sets everything up. So here we go.
On April 10th, 1912, RMS Titanic set out on its maiden voyage from Southampton to New York.
Britain's wonder of the world. Titanic, the 46,000-ton liner, set out proudly on her maiden voyage to America.
On the night of April 14th, the ship struck an iceberg in the Atlantic Ocean. 2.5 hours later, the world's newest and greatest ocean liner sank below the waves. Over 1,500 people died in the freezing waters. Since the day of the disaster, legend has overtaken fact, and there are many questions surrounding the sinking. Was the voyage doomed from the start? Could the accident have been avoided? Who benefited financially? Was it even the Titanic that actually sank? Theories have encircled this tragedy for over a century, and we're about to set the record straight. Titanic never sank. That's right, there's a theory about insurance fraud that meant the Titanic ship itself never sank. Instead, some believe its sister ship, the RMS Olympic, was the boat that sank on that fateful night. Originally put forward by theorist Robin Gardner in 1998, the theory goes like this. In 1911, the Olympic collided with a Royal Naval warship. The accident damaged its hull and central turbines, but the ship's insurers refused to pay the $800,000 for repairs. Since the Olympic was being fixed in the same dockyard that the Titanic was being built in, and since Titanic followed the same design as Olympic, the owners decided to swap the ships, sink the Titanic, and collect the insurance to pay for the repairs. The Olympic would continue to sail the seas until it was retired in 1935. But in reality, it was the Titanic. The tragic loss of life occurred because the plan to rescue everyone was completely botched. According to Gardner, the swap would have been relatively easy to achieve, because the ship's name was only put on removable objects like lifeboats and the ship's bell. Even though photographs clearly show that the ship's names were put on their bow, this theory seemed quite plausible until you really think about it. Maritime author Mark Chirnside pointed out that it cost $7.5 million to build Titanic, but White Star Line insured it for just $5 million. This means the loss they made on Titanic was greater than the cost of repairs on the Olympic. Furthermore, the shipwreck has the number 401 stamped all over it. This was Titanic's hull number, not Olympic's. Nevertheless, some people still believe it was a scam, and that the scam was the brainchild of the owner of White Star Line, JP Morgan. The theories involving JP Morgan don't stop there either. He was one of the most powerful bankers of the time, and if the financier didn't sink Titanic as part of an insurance fraud, he orchestrated it to kill his rivals who opposed the creation of the Federal Reserve. But the titanic weight of evidence against this theory being true might explain why there's another version of it floating around on the internet that says the Rothschilds planned it. But there's even less proof for this than the Morgan theory. So I'm afraid for all the conspiracy enthusiasts out there, the story of Titanic is simply a tragic example of a maritime disaster.
You're muted.
Who? Bunny?
There
he is.
Sorry. All right. So basically, so that last theory is the one that's most intriguing to me. Okay. Would you mind, Skeletor, maybe bringing up some chats and helping me out here? I'm a little, a little busy. Would you mind?
Why must I be bothered with you? Till we meet again.
Anyway. All right.
So Brian,
evidently I misspelled something in the poll, and evidently Abby's brought that up. So thank you, Abby, for pointing that out.
Yep.
Anyway, okay, welcome, Brian. Good to see you. Good to see you, man. Welcome.
Where is this poll you speak of? I want to see a whore dance on it.
Poll. Poll. Anyway, so basically, no, it's not. All right. So basically, all right. So if you're going to create a trap for somebody, first of all, you've got to have the trap itself. You got to conceive of the trap itself. Now, JP Morgan is not known for being creative. Okay. And so what did he use as a template? Well, in 1898, there's a book that was written. And it was written by a guy who had history around shipping and things like that. And his name was Morgan Robinson. Okay. Now let me read this article right quick. It was a clear, chilly night in April. The largest vessel ever to float, at 800 feet long, displaced 45,000 tons, and declared unsinkable by all who had seen her, was gliding through the water, roughly 25,000 peacefully sleeping passengers. 2,500. And then suddenly it struck an iceberg on a starboard side while moving at 25 knots. The ship was 400 nautical miles from Newfoundland. The ship sank quickly, and due to an insufficient amount of lifeboats, took a majority of passengers with it. Story sounds familiar, anyone with even minor knowledge of the Titanic. However, that story isn't a description of what happened to the Titanic. That's actually the plot of a novel titled Futility, which was released 14 years before the Titanic ever set sail. Okay. 1898, a man named Morgan Robertson penned a novel called The Wreck of the Titan, or Futility. The story was that of a man named John Rowland. I don't need to read the plot, but the similarities between the Titan and the Titanic go far beyond a name and an iceberg. The length of the Titan was 800 feet. The Titanic, 882. The speed at which the Titan cruised into the iceberg was 25 knots. The Titanic's was 22.5. The Titan held 2,500 passengers. The Titanic held 2,200, though both had the capacity of 3,000. Both ships were British owned. Both ships were hit the starboard bow around midnight. Both sank the North Atlantic exactly 400 nautical miles from Newfoundland. Both had a severe lack of lifeboats, Titan holding 24, the Titanic carrying 20. Both had triple screw propellers. And though there's a few differences, they are few and far between. Example, the Titan sinking left only 13 survivors. Titanic left 705. And the Titan actually capsized before sinking, while the Titanic split in two pieces. And let me see. But that was a novella that was released in a by a British, a New York publishing company, and like this guy in 1215, 2 years after the Titanic sank, he died in a hotel room mysteriously under strange circumstances. He died standing up, and
Right.
they ruled it a heart. Something going with the heart, but when they found him, he was standing. Anyway, but when they asked him about the similarities when the Titanic went down, this novel was known, okay? It was well known. And so when people started putting two to two together when the Titanic went down and there's so many similarities, they asked him about it, and he's just mere coincidence. It's coincidence, right? But we do know that he was extraordinarily broke, because he said multiple times he asked if somebody would buy a copy of his book for him, because the publishing contract he had was so awful that he never really made any money off of it. After he died, the publishing company renamed it the Titan, the wreck of the HMS Titan, and they made a mint off of it. But he never really made a lot of money off of it. But so this is that was published in 1898, and suddenly in about 1907, J.P. Morgan, the wealthiest man in the world, decides to buy it's before 1907. It was like around 1905 or so. But he decides to suddenly buy up a cruise line, and so he buys a holding company that had basically one of their holdings was White Star Line. Okay, and soon after that, the conception came up for 3 ships: the Titanic, the Olympic, and the Britannic. And so the first one to be sent out was Olympic, and then Titanic was the middle ship, and then the Britannic. And so all this happened around the late 1900s, and it was ready to the Titanic was ready to float by 1912. And but let me play something right quick about this novel. I found something Orson Welles, so I had to play this. So my man Orson, here we go.
What we've been looking at is a trip to the moon. It's an illustration from a book by Jules Verne written in the last century, long before such a voyage through space was even conceived of as possible. Reality has more than once been foreshadowed by fiction. But here, just for example, is something that goes beyond, far beyond, anything we might ascribe to mere coincidence. In 1898, a little-known author named Morgan Robertson wrote this remarkable piece of fiction about a luxurious ocean liner, larger than any ship existing in its time, filled with wealthy passengers and a rich cargo. But on its maiden voyage, this ship, labeled unsinkable, struck an iceberg one starry April night and sank in the cold waters of the North Atlantic. Now, 14 years after this book was published, a British shipping company, the White Star Line, built a vessel of almost exactly the same dimensions as those imagined by Robertson in his novel. It too boasted a list of wealthy and famous passengers and made the audacious claim of being unsinkable. And one starry night in the North Atlantic, one April night, April 14th, 1912, it struck a giant iceberg and vanished beneath the seas. Now, the similarities of size, speed, and fate are truly incredible. But the most startling parallel of all, Robertson named his fictional ship the Titan. Its real-life counterpart, as we all know, was the Titanic.
Well, there you go.
Okay. All right. Two possibilities. Morgan Robertson can see the future. Other possibility, somebody read that book and had the money. And all right, welcome, Mr. Good Stuff. Thank you for entering the chat.
Hello.
Anyway, but the possibility is that Morgan Robertson's book was used as a template. And the template to do something that would build these ships to the exact dynamics of the of this ship, the Titan, and use the what happened to the Titan as your plan. For whatever you're planning to do. Okay, so what sounds more like a feasible? Somebody be able to see the future, or somebody basically taking that book and using it as a template? What say you? What sounds more plausible?
Template.
Okay. What do you think? What do you think? Go ahead.
I mean, there's always biblical prophecies, of course, as well. That's technically the future, but I would say, I would say they use the book as a template.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. All right. What do you say,
Like
you?
the blueprint.
Okay. Abby says blueprint. Okay. We say what?
Yeah, I think he used it as a guide. Yeah, I think it's a guide. Very plausible.
Okay.
I mean, the book came out 14 years prior.
Right.
J.P. Morgan was a very educated man, very astute man. Culture. I'm sure that books and things like that were.
Well, this was published in the New York. It was published in New York, and so J.P. Morgan was a New Yorker.
Yeah, it was a New Yorker.
And so we know they were released in the same city where this thing was published. So,
it's very
and it was a popular book.
Read that book. Yeah, very
conceivable. Yeah, it's a novella, so it's a shorter book. So it's not like it's a novel length. So it's not a big time commitment. He could have read that book, but all we know is like in the early 1900s, he suddenly decided to diversify into shipping lines. Luxury shipping lines. And as a banker, he had the money to make it happen. He's the world's biggest banker at that time. And okay, so now the question. Okay, so the question is, why would you do this? Why would you build this ship? These three ships. Okay, if you're thinking that it's not plausible that somebody would build ships just for this purpose. Okay, the Titanic was approximately $12 million in that era. Okay, J.P. Morgan was worth like about 200 million or more at that time, which would make him a multi-billionaire today. Okay, So what it seems inconceivable that somebody would build that. There also exists the possibility that the Olympic had the wreck, that it got swiped with the numbers on the Titanic, and that was the ship that went down. That's a possibility. And that would also be an insurance angle. But we're going to focus in on why in the world would he build this gigantic honey trap? Okay. Now, the next thing is J.P. Morgan was supposed to be on the ship. Are you aware of that?
No.
Okay. The maiden voyage, he actually had the nicest cabin on the ship booked. He had it built for himself. So that shows he was aware of the Titanic. Okay. He had it built. It had a private salon. It had private quarters, and it was the nicest cabin on the whole entire ship. And he had a custom built for himself. Then, right before it was supposed to make his voyage, this happened.
John Pierpont Morgan, widely known as J.P. Morgan, was a prominent American financier and banker in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. His financial empire made him a towering figure during the Gilded Age. Morgan exercised enormous influence over the nation's policies and the market forces underlying its economy. His decision to alter his travel plans aboard the Titanic proved to be a matter of life and death. In April 1912, the RMS Titanic, deemed unsinkable and heralded as the epitome of luxury, embarked on its maiden voyage from Southampton, England, to New York City. Among the wealthy passengers eagerly anticipating the voyage was J.P. Morgan, who had a significant role in financing the creation of the White Star Line, the company that built the Titanic. Just days before the Titanic's departure, J.P. Morgan decided to cancel his planned trip. The exact reason behind his change of plans is still a subject of speculation and debate, as no definitive evidence has surfaced to explain his decision. Several theories have emerged to explain J.P. Morgan's cancellation. Some speculate that his health conditions played a role and that he canceled the trip to visit a health spa in Aix-les-Bains, France, possibly with his mistress. Another account of Morgan's cancellation involves a decision to go to Paris, France, to arrange for his art collection to be moved out of the country. This was due to concerns over new laws that would prevent Americans exporting art from France. Other theories relative to Morgan's role in monetary policy have also circulated, though they are controversial. These include that the sinking of the Titanic was related to getting rid of opponents to forming a U.S. central bank. Critics have dismissed this theory as unfounded and a conspiracy theory. The Federal Reserve was formed in 1913 after the financial panic of 1907 convinced many legislators of the need for a central banking system. Regardless of the reason behind his cancellation, J.P. Morgan's decision spared him from the tragic fate that awaited the Titanic.
There are no coincidences.
Okay. 1 second. I had to add some moderators right quick. Okay. All right. So J.P. Morgan wasn't on the ship. Okay. Now, who else was on the ship? There was an individual that was on the ship who actually controlled most of the real estate in the United States. All right. All right. Anyway, so he controlled most of the real estate in the United States. I think a percentage was like really astronomical. I think it was well over 50% of the all of the. Can we just focus here, guys? Can we just focus for 2 seconds here? All right. Anyway, so another guy was basically there is no Jack. There is no that movie does not exist. does not exist in this space. We are not talking about that god awful piece of shit movie. All right. Anyway, so there was a guy who was actually on level with J.P. Morgan, and it was John Jacob Astor IV. Okay, they called him the Colonel, and the Colonel was a man of principle, but he was also happened to be on the ship with his pregnant wife. I think it was either third. I think it might have been third wife, but they had a real whirlwind romance, and it was kind of like a really like tongues wagged because she was younger than him by quite a bit. But he was on the ship. He's brought there by the lady they call the unsinkable Molly Brown. Okay. Anyway, now he and his wife happened to be on their honeymoon, and they were traveling, and they happened to run into Molly Brown. Now, Molly Brown wasn't originally supposed to be booked on the Titanic, but she got a telegraph that something was wrong with her daughter, and that she needed to get back to the United States, and so she supposedly booked the first luxury liner heading that way, and that was supposed to be the Titanic. And evidently John Jacob and his wife decided to accompany her, and that's how he wound up on the Titanic. Here's a little something about them, right here.
Like most of his contemporaries, J.J. Astor knew all about the technological innovations of the age, and had even written a novel on the subject. For the ladies on the upper deck, fashion and gossip were the main sport, while the lower decks were enthralled with their own modest luxuries. Titanic left for New York in April 1912. Neither technological innovation nor wealth was to make any difference. After the impact with the iceberg, Astor, like many others, did not believe the ship was in any serious danger. But soon there was no ignoring the fact that the unsinkable ship was sinking. Astor bade farewell to his 18-year-old bride after helping her into a lifeboat, saying he would see her in the morning. John Jacob Astor, the richest man on board Titanic, died alongside 1,500 others from all classes and all continents, all equal in death. And so the technological triumph of the new century, the epitome of Edwardian engineering, ended in tragedy. As the First World War beckoned, life for the elite and empire would never be the same.
Well. You're muted, Bunny.
Don't tell him.
There is no sound, Bunny. We cannot hear you.
You're muted, Bunny.
Sorry, I unmute myself and then it immediately mutes me back. I don't know. StreamYards is screwing with me. All right, so can we get away from the parkour for 2 seconds? All right, just for 2 seconds. Can I conduct the show here? All right. Anyway, all right, I'm back. All right, so John Jacob Astor was like the only person. He was the most rich person on that ship. Okay. Levi Strauss, Isidore Strauss was on there. I'm sorry, Isidore Strauss was also on there, and so was Francis Guggenheim. You might have known for the museum. That was his money built that museum. Okay, but we're talking about out of the top 10 most rich people in America at that time, these guys were probably around the top 5. And so there's 3 of them on the same ship that goes down, the same ship that JP Morgan was supposedly be on that he canceled. Okay. And not only did he cancel, but everybody that he was like, that was like in his inner circle canceled and didn't go on the Titanic either.
Huh.
And so, and basically, you know, all of they basically canceled. And so, you know, and so he went down with it, and so did Isidore Straus, and so did Guggenheim. But they found, out of all the bodies that they couldn't find, they found John Jacob Astor and they found Isidore Straus. They never found Guggenheim, but they did find those 2. And so out of all the bodies that they didn't recover, they did find those 2. It's like they were specifically looking for them or something. Or they knew where to look. I don't know. Anyway, so I was reading through today, and everybody that like criticizes this theory. Anyway, but everybody criticizes this theory. They all have the exact same. Problem with the theory. Okay, and that is, how in the world do you have a trap where it's you don't close the snare? Like, it's just complete total. You know, it's like complete and total like a coincidence that these guys got closed in the snare, because you did. You know, how do you like control whether or not they stayed, that they didn't get on the boats? And well, interestingly enough, one of the only men that survived was the guy who was like the president of the White Star Lines. Okay,
that bastard.
He is one of the only ones that survived, and
he did it.
Yeah, right. But the captain went down with the ship, but the captain already had a kind of cloud over him from an earlier mistake that he made. I think he was the captain of the Olympic, but he already had a cloud over him. And when this happened, he chose to go down with the ship. But a lot of the people who like lasted after the war. I mean that were like crew on the ship that actually got rescued. They all had like a very similar accounts, and that was that John Jacob Astor asked to get on one of the boats. They turned down a boat earlier because they didn't think it was that severe or that they were in that much danger. But later on, when it became very apparent that the boat was going down, he asked to be on the same boat with his wife, who was clearly pregnant. And they told him he couldn't go on the boat. He had a pregnant 18-year-old wife, obviously clearly pregnant, and they wouldn't let him go on the boat. And yet, the president of the White Star Alliance was allowed to go on the boat. He was heavily criticized because people thought he should have gone down with the boat too, but he didn't. But there's like, I think 57 men that got saved, and if they ran out of women and children, they would basically take a man, but they were just loading these boats up and trying to get them out as soon as possible. In fact, they took them too far. I mean, they panicked, and basically they were shoving boats out that weren't full capacity. And well, he didn't get to go on a boat. Isidore and his wife, since he was told he wouldn't be able to go on a boat, she stayed with him, and so they died together. And it's not known if Guggenheim was denied to go on a boat, but I am willing to bet that he was. And so these three are the richest men on the planet. Three of the richest men on the planet. And out of all the people that were allowed to go on these boats, these three men were denied. Or at least two of them we know for a fact were denied.
You said that Guggenheim's body was never recovered.
Yeah.
He was definitely on the ship, though.
Yeah, he was definitely on the ship, yeah.
Right. Okay, I was just starting to wonder there if he maybe not.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, his body was never recovered, but I didn't really go down that rabbit hole to see if he might have survived.
I'm sure there were. Yeah, I'm sure there were plenty of other bodies weren't recovered as well. So.
Right. Anyway, thank you, Mrs. Good Stuff. Thank you for joining. Anyway, and so basically that's the theory. Okay. So why is this significant? Okay. Something else was happening around this time. In 1907, there was a depression that hit, or the dollar almost collapsed. And the reason why it almost collapsed, thank you, Mrs. Good Stuff. But the reason the dollar almost collapsed was because a whole bunch of billionaires who happened to be friends with J.P. Morgan pulled their money out of the market. And it caused the run on the banks. It caused the stock market to drop. And it terrified, there's a lot of changes that supposedly needed to be made, okay? And so around this time, something was proposed, okay? And it was proposed to be a Federal Reserve.
I've totally
Anybody
never heard of that.
Anybody hear of a Federal Reserve? Anyone?
Oh, never.
No? Okay. Now, this next video will kind of like bring it all home, okay? This next video will bring it all home. All right. Here we go.
With currencies around the world all backed by gold and silver, global trade benefited from what is called the classical gold standard. This international gold standard provided an automatic market mechanism for checking the inflationary potential of government. If a country, like Mexico, inflated their paper pesos, the inevitable result would be gold leaving the country when foreign banks redeemed their Mexican paper money for the proper amount of gold and silver. While the ability to redeem gold internationally imposed a level of discipline on national governments, interventions in domestic economies still managed to create the booms and busts we see in business cycles. Often, through some sort of government privilege, banks would be legally protected to print money not backed by gold, which would spur investment into projects that otherwise would not be profitable, resulting in a bust. After a particularly bad financial crisis in 1907, the result of bad banking policies first imposed during the Civil War, major Wall Street banks decided to promote the creation of a new central bank that could be depended on to bail them out during a financial crisis. The Wall Street bankers and their allied politicians understood that it would be difficult to get the American public to create such a powerful and dangerous government tool. In planning the creation of this new bank, they met in secret locations, like Jekyll Island, Georgia, using fake names. They plotted a national propaganda campaign to sell the public and elected officials on the plan by any means necessary. In 1912, Woodrow Wilson was elected president in a three-way race with less than 42% of the vote. A year later, he would sign into law the creation of the Federal Reserve. Shortly after, the costs of World War I would force governments around the world to begin massively inflating their currencies, which would result as the end of the gold standard. So, if the classical gold standard worked so well, why did it break down? It broke down because governments were entrusted with the task of keeping their monetary promises, of seeing to it that pounds, dollars, francs, etc. were always redeemable in gold, as they and their controlled banking system had pledged. Governments were incentivized to allow banks to print far more paper money than gold on hand than they could in a free market. It was not gold that failed. It was the folly of trusting the government to keep its promises.
Okay. You see where I'm going here. All right. Thank you. Good stuff. So you have a good time, guys. All right. Okay. So, all right. If you're a banker, which JP Morgan was the biggest banker in the world, and fucking yeah, Woodrow Wilson, right? But if you're the now, the 1912 presidential election is one of the most controversial presidential elections in American history. He only won with 42% of the vote, and there was a lot of shenanigans that happened. including a third-party candidate who just showed up at like the last minute and split the vote for the
How
other
did that
candidate.
occur if they were supposed to get, a specific number of electoral votes? Because we're still using electoral college at that time. So how the hell, with him 42% of the vote, he only got 42%?
Well, did you not hear what I just said? A third-party candidate showed up at the last minute with a mysterious amount of backing and managed to split some of the vote off.
But it doesn't matter. He had to win. He had to get to a specific number of electoral votes to become president. Otherwise, it becomes a runoff.
Yes, he did. Well, the rules actually changed after that. So you're talking about the rules now, but the rules then allowed for it. And this election was one of the reasons they changed that rule.
Oh, Brian.
See you. Hey, Brian. But this election was one of the reasons they changed that rule, okay? And so, all right, you get your man into place around 1912.
Yeah.
And in 1907, did you see who bailed out Wall Street in 1907?
Yeah, Morgan.
J.P. Morgan, okay.
Morgan.
Just like in 1990, what was it, 20, when was the banking crisis? That was 2008? 28? Something like that.
2007.
2007? Okay. Who bailed out the banking then? BlackRock.
No.
And so who's in control of everything now? BlackRock, right?
Yeah.
Well, the same thing happened back then. Yeah.
I didn't know
BlackRock bailed out the American
them.
government. That's why they got so much power back then. Okay. But JP Morgan did the same thing, but he actually artificially caused this thing, and then he offered the solution. But then he suddenly started pushing for a central bank. Now, unbacked currency only benefits the people who print it. And so that means that anybody at that time who had a lot of money, John Jacob Astor IV had control, like I said, about over 50% of the rental, real estate in a whole entire nation. And so this guy, he had enough money to be a power, and but he was like going through a midlife crisis. He was distracted by this 18-year-old mistress, and he kind of went off the reservation for a little while, but eventually he was going to pay attention again. And if they tried to bring this in, they called him the Colonel because he had military experience. He actually served, and this was somebody he was very formidable, and while he was distracted by this lady, this young girl, they couldn't depend upon him to be distracted forever. And Strauss was okay. He said he was okay with the Federal Reserve by some. It's never been written down, but people said that he was okay with it. But he was. But what was he proposed? What was being proposed at the time wasn't that scary. It changed drastically. After these meetings with Jekyll Island and other places, it changed drastically what they were proposing. So Strauss was okay with it at that time. And Guggenheim, we don't know because Guggenheim never really commented on it. But Guggenheim was he controlled a lot of the aristocracy in the old money. He was really from old money. And so he was like somebody that they were going to have to deal with. And well, suddenly, what happens is J.P. Morgan buys White Star Lines, commissions 3 ships roughly in the same dimensions, everything that was in that book. And then the ships, they go out with, Titanic goes out roughly the same direction and winds up sinking after hitting the same thing in roughly the same place at the same time at night. And all of this and oh, by the way, when the Titanic went down, it broke in half. Now, any structural engineer will tell you that the place that any ship is weakest is in midships. Okay?
Right.
But at the same time, this is a brand new freaking ship. What happened with the Titanic was really strange. The only way that there was a boiler fire that was also reputed to have happened that would have caused some structural damage there. But a lot of people I trust think it was a torpedo or a mine. Because there was as early as the Confederate War, there's a monitor called the Albemarle that was sunk when they attached a mine to the hull, and blew a big hole in the and that happened. It's like one of the things that happened in the Civil War. The Albemarle was like a scary ironclad, and they couldn't beat it any other way. A guy went in, and they attached basically a bomb to the hull, and blew a hole in it, and it sunk. And that was Confederacy. That was during the Civil War, and so the technology was there. The technology was available, and so a lot of people think, and I'm inclined to believe, that what happened to the Titanic was not an iceberg, but a torpedo. What's called a torpedo, which was basically a mine. Okay,
right. Okay.
Attached to the hull. And so
I was waiting to say we didn't have U-boats back then, so
no, torpedo. What I'm talking about, torpedo. They called them torpedoes, but they were basically mines.
Right.
Okay. I'm sorry, the terminology changed. Later on, but okay. So now they would call this a conspiracy theory, and the reason they say it's a conspiracy theory is, number one, why would somebody as monetarily astute as J.P. Morgan spend that much money on something that he was just going to turn around and sink? But with the Federal Reserve coming in, we're not talking, him being rich anymore. We're talking about him being able to print money. Okay, what's the difference between having something in your wallet? Hey, Kate. Hey, I hadn't seen you in a while. Hey,
hello,
welcome, lady. But what's the difference between okay, say if I bring my wallet out, right here. Now, if I go to purchase anything with this, what's my purchasing power?
Whatever's in your wallet.
Whatever's in my wallet, whatever's in my account somewhere, or my credit line. Okay. Now imagine if I were able to put something about this wallet that made my I could basically, for anything, backed or not, I could say, okay, wallet, give me $100, and I would get $100 out of that wallet. What's more preferable? A limited amount in an account somewhere backed by currency, or me being able to say, ka-ching, okay, I want to buy that car, print the money. What's more attractive?
Let me think.
Okay. All right.
Money out of thin air sounds good.
Okay.
Oh yeah, money out of thin air, and insurance
which
fraud,
is still going on.
It's still
going on now. It's still going on now. Okay.
Oh yeah.
That's why they're still debunking this conspiracy theory and saying, "Oh no, J.P. Morgan didn't have anything to do with that," because this had to be, this has to be like just
there you go.
Just a random happenstance.
Not Brian in the chat says it's the
Bottle
difference
Jack
between
and
owning a bottle of Jack and owning a distillery.
Yes, exactly.
Yes,
exactly. And so, and we know for a fact that J.P. Morgan was like extraordinarily, what's the word? Greedy. He was extremely greedy. Okay. The monopoly man is basically J.P. Morgan, and I don't know if you've noticed that.
I think I heard that. Yeah,
but basically, so this is the most. This guy is being greedy like few before and few since. controlled all the banking systems. And the reason why he controlled the banking systems was because it's 1907, round about the time that he bought White Star Lines, he bailed out the government out of an artificial shortage that he created. And then just a few years later, our currency was backed by gold until Nixon. Not technically. And why didn't you say that here? Why didn't you say that on panel? Why are you putting it in the chat? You're on the panel for a reason, dude.
He's
anyway,
probably in the head.
Okay, whatever.
All right, yeah.
I don't know. No, seriously, I thought Nixon took us out of the gold standard. I remember that distinctly in a couple of those Wall Street stupid ass movies where they pretty much said Nixon took us out of the gold standard.
Well, the gold standard still existed, but we're talking about a credit line. But we're not talking back to currency. We're talking about a credit line. Okay. And so the credit line, the Federal Reserve set up a credit line, unlimited credit line. Anyway, 2 ships that changed the Olympic. It was damaged. Yeah, we already talked about that. We're not going to focus on that one because I try to get my theory kind of settled here. Okay, but yeah, the Olympic. It's a possibility the Titanic was the Olympic. We did cover that. But anyway, so that's pretty much my theory. Now, this is where the rubber meets the road. If I did my job right, I should get some confirms here. Okay. Now, so this is where the rubber meets the road here. All right. So, what are you giggling about? Seriously, what are you giggling about now?
What you done now?
Nothing. I haven't done anything at all.
Really?
I'm surrounded by kids. I'm surrounded by children here. Anyway, all right. So, Cruel, you're the only one that's with me anyway.
2 children and a Cruel.
All right, Cruel.
Apparently so, yeah.
Apparently so. All right. All right. So, Cruel, is it debunked? Is it confirmed? Is it in the middle? Or is debunked would mean that I'm full of crap. This was a random happenstance. It's just a tragedy. Confirmed would be I'm absolutely right. J.P. Morgan is the devil, and he killed all these people to get those 3 men, and he's a piece of shit, and he's burning in hell for all eternity. Or in the middle, that maybe he took advantage of something that happened. It just so happened to happen, and he took advantage of it later on. Or are you undecided? So, which one is it?
Well, I've seen the fall of the cabal. Huh? I've seen the fall of the cabal. So, yeah, I believe these guys. I believe these guys were a threat to the Federal Reserve. So,
okay.
But I'm thinking to myself, you talk about the level of greed this man had.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking some of these other theories about changing the bloody ships might be true as well. I mean, why not, as an added bonus, get the insurance and so on and so forth?
Right. Because he's going to do this anyway.
There was a documentary. There was a documentary a few years back, and I remember seeing bits and pieces of it. But one of the things that they were talking about, it was kind of one of those things where, okay, where did the Titanic crack in half at? And all these other specific physical attributes of the Titanic.
Right.
Well, when they started talking about that, there was discussion of that the Titanic might not have been the Titanic because of pictures taken under construction. The Titanic under construction
had a different serial number. Yeah.
Well, not that. It's there was a specific set of windows that were done in a way specifically for the Olympic versus the Titanic.
Okay.
Since the Olympic was the first one built, was the first one to be launched.
Well, we're not following that theory. So. We're not really following that theory tonight. We're basically we're pretty much square on J.P. Morgan. Did J.P. was it a? Hey, what's up, Wrangler? But was
right,
the Titanic a honey trap? That's pretty much what we're trying to focus on here. Cruel thinks it's confirmed. He thinks it was a honey trap. Yep. Right, Cruel. So he's on confirmed. Yep. What about you, Wookie? Are you confirmed?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Did I convince you? Okay.
Yeah. Well, you convinced me like months ago. So. But, yeah,
okay. all right. But I solidified it. Right. All right. Okay. Abby, what are you on, man?
Well,
his fourth bottle of scotch.
Probably.
So to quote, Uncle George, well, he seems fairly intelligent. He's full of shit. Anyway.
Okay, what do you think, man?
Well, I'm undecided.
All right.
Undecided.
Okay, so Abby's an undecided, which that's the reason. That's the very reason. JP and the Rockefellers were behind it. Okay, so you are confirmed. Make sure you vote. So you're confirmed. Good deal. We'll check the results of the poll here shortly. We'll give it another minute or two. The poll is over here on the Bunny channel. It's over here in the chat because Wookie's too lazy to put one in his chat. So, all right. So come over to Bunny channel and make sure you vote.
I'm busy.
Anyway, all right. So okay. So at least up here we've got 3. I don't really count because I'm like making the case, but at least there's 3 confirms and 1 undecided over here. So it's looking good for a confirmed. I have no idea if it was honey trap. Once heard it was planned to sink as a form of sacrificial offering. Theories can get wild. All right. No problem. So vote undecided. Yeah, Kate. Kate's from she's a cannabis and conspiracy girl. We had a lot of fun over there.
Cool.
But so welcome to the new show, Kate. We do this every Friday night. On Saturday night at 7 o'clock.
Saturday night.
Saturday night at 7 o'clock. All right. I said Saturday night. All right. Anyway,
we certainly try.
We certainly try.
Yes.
At least I try. I try.
You
I don't know if anybody else is trying.
I try. I had tried to find my ducky and some damn parkour took it.
Oh.
All right. So let me check the poll over here. So what's the results of the poll? Everybody says in the middle at the poll. So
what?
Well, we got to nope. We're moving.
Undecided.
We got undecided.
Undecided wins.
That's on me. That's on me. I misspelled that. That's on me. I misspelled that. So
Undecided.
Undecided.
So we got 2 undecideds and 3 confirmed. So I didn't quite make my case, evidently. That's all right. I always count the poll as 2, and so it's pretty much a tie at this point. If anybody else wants to break the tie,
undecided.
All right. Okay, so all right, looks like undecided has it in poll. So evidently I didn't quite accomplish what I didn't quite accomplish it. All right, so I guess I got to play this. Let me bring it up. Okay, so looks like I didn't quite get there tonight. So here we go.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. Okay, so all right, so here on Cryptids and Conspiracies, we try to come to some conclusion, and tonight looks like I didn't quite make my case. Looks like a lot of people are undecided, with UNDECIDED. All right, I do know how to spell it. I guess in a hurry. All right. So evidently undecided is what we decided. What wound up tonight. Are you sure you don't want to switch, Abby? Sure you don't want to switch?
I'm sure.
Okay. So undecided has it. I didn't really count myself because yeah.
Yeah, a bit biased there, yeah.
Anyway. It was pretty much an uphill battle all night. Thank you for helping me out, Cruel. I appreciate it.
Ice skating uphill. Good job.
Yeah, I was definitely ice skating uphill.
Keep moving the ground on me.
Definitely ice skating uphill tonight, especially with the good stuffs over there.
Totally a reference at all.
All right.
Maybe he's out decided.
Yeah. All right.
Now, see, if you would have had a category for parkours, I think that would have won.
I think 100%.
Game over,
I guess
man.
I got a point at this time. I got a point at this time. All right. I got to play it at least once.
I guess we have to get that in. Yeah, apparently. Once every show at least.
Every once in a while.
All right. Okay. All right. Well, thank you all for coming. Thank you for the parkour down here or whatever. For coming tonight. I did my best. If you watch this show back and you yeah. I thought you guys were on a date or something.
No, I scrolled back up.
Oh, okay. Well, I appreciate it.
Because I love
Thank you, Wookie.
Oh,
thank you, Wookie. Nice to have the support. Nice to have the support. Nice to have the support. Anyway, so evidently I didn't make my case totally tonight. But you know we are dealing with conspiracies here, and so you know there is a lot of wiggle room. You know, maybe next time. All right. Well, that was our conspiracy. What's our cryptid for next week? What are we going with?
Crawlers.
Yes.
Who?
Crawlers.
Also known, or we could do rakes, and not the garden variety either.
What the hell you?
Yep. There's a couple cryptids. They're called crawlers. Also,
nobody knows who those are.
No.
Nobody knows what those are.
Okay, we can do the Dog Man. There's a lot of Dog Man channels on YouTube.
How about the Chupacabra?
Well, Chupacabra. That's it. We're gonna do the Chupacabra.
Chupacabra.
When? When did we do the Chupacabra?
We already did that.
No, we didn't.
Chupa me pee pee. I don't know what.
Chupa the parkour.
We haven't done Chupacabra. No, we haven't.
Chupa the
anyway,
parkour.
Plus I have a piece of footage that nobody's been able to debunk so far.
Bog people.
Time
Bog people. Bog people.
Bog people.
Feral humans.
No, we're gonna go with Chupacabra for next week, guys.
Chupacabra. Holy shit. That was a
Yeah.
bad movie. Chupacabra. Chupacabra quesadillas. That's right.
Good.
Good.
All right.
Yep.
All right. So Chupacabra is next week.
Armadillo fritters.
Don't forget the hush puppies.
We have definitely gone too far afield to bring this back.
So, Nutra Rat tacos.
You gotta put B-Dog's comment on there.
My Cobra.
All right. Before we go too far out,
that's what the parkours are for.
It's all coming together now.
And this is where the stream lies.
Okay. All right. We're just gonna. All right. We're just gonna put it. We're just gonna put a caboose on this and call it a night. All right. Well, thank you all for coming.
Kate.
I'm drooling.
Thank you for a good time. Thank you for coming and helping us out. And, we couldn't do this. We wouldn't be worth doing it without you. This is every Saturday night, 7:00.
Because we're
could
nothing
you stop
without the
bringing
chat.
up the same damn comment so I can put in the damn show? Would you please just do it for me? just do it for me. All right. All right, I'm just ending the damn show. All right, I'm just ending it. All right, have a good night. We'll see you next Saturday night.
Good night, everybody.
Support your local parkour.
Hit the like button.